Is it a 4? Is it a 9? How much fat is there around the top of the tail? How much fat is there at the withers, on the crest? The horse, we call it apple butt, right, where they have extra, or is the spine sticking up? And being able to measure what is healthy for this horse at this time of his life, in this environment, with this work. Next. And the other part of that is the top line evaluation score. Everyone heard of that? They do A through D there, and they have the first section being withers and back, then the loins, then the croup. Your horse is an A if all three sections have sufficient muscling and cover. A B if only 2 sections, a C if 1 section, a D if no sections. So can we go back to the horse with a couple more back? That one. So when he came, he was a D. And then after rehabilitation, which can take a year or 2, he's an A. So we can change. The horse doesn't want to be a D. He's supposed to be the A. And if they're in our care, they're domestic horses in our care, it's our job to provide that. We can continue. Top line is key to well-being and allows for fewer injuries. So how we helping those horses to be the best that they can be is imperative, and learning how to do it better. Next. Balanced diet, proper amino acids with exercise improves top line. So movement and balanced nutrition.
Jeff was talking about a lot was the protein and the amino acids.
Yes, I loved Jeff talking about protein and amino acids, and where the amino acids. So we're hindgut nutrition. Again, we're talking what Alicia spoke of, what Jeff spoke of, and there's a lot of understanding, and a lot of, as we change their diet and change their environment, it affects everything about the horses. And having a horse that was once starved, 3 years later, he was no longer in starvation, but the balance of his metabolism, his microbiome, was still out of balance. It took me another year to bring that back into balance. And I couldn't do that by myself. I had help come in to learn more about the nutrition of balancing amino acids and proteins for horses that are really in distress. Next. Yeah. Right, and they show up, our teachers show up, right? Yes. Yeah. So stress and pain. The strongest driver of any behavior is pain. Horses are stoic, they hide pain, and it's our job to find the cause. Always relieve pain first, then work on the rest. So understanding who the horses are. And I didn't make this slide, but it's supposed to, help us remember why horses hide pain. It's the only way they stay alive. Horses are soft speakers, so we must listen closely. Unwanted behaviors come from pain or levels of fear, including anxiety, frustration, and we're always checking for pain. You cannot train away pain. So if a horse is in pain, unless you address the pain, there's nothing you're going to do about it. So learning how to see what pain looks like in the horse, they do not have words. They show us through the muscles in their body. So becoming more familiar with the muscles in your body. And as an assessment tool, I want to show you some of the tools that I've found that have taught me or shown me how to assess pain and, well, all of the domains of the horse for a better relationship. Okay. Facial action coding system. This was created by a veterinarian who really just studied every muscle in the horse's face and then learned when did the horse use those muscles, how did they use those muscles, and what did it show us, and how did it relate to the rest of the horse's body. But it's a tool, and it helped me learn more about the muscles in the horse's face. The Grimace scale was created by veterinarians who were doing a lot of castrations, and they used it, they judged the horses on a scale of 0, 1, or 2, 0 being no pain present, 1 being moderate pain, 2 being acute pain. And it was just on physical pain of horses that had been castrated. Well, is their opinion it was physical pain. We don't really know unless we ask the horse. Physical lameness, everyone's watched a horse trot, and we've learned how to tell when the head goes down, when the head is up. How is the horse shifting his weight and why? I loved one of the reason I started working with welfare I was working with a veterinarian, and we were doing a demonstration, and he was trotting out horses, and we were supposed to talk about whether we saw lameness or didn't see lameness. The first time he trotted the mare, he let the mare trot however she wanted to trot, and she trotted. She didn't look quite straight, and she didn't look her trot lacked rhythm, but she didn't look lame. And said, "What do you see?" And then he asked her to trot again, but he straightened her spine, straightened her neck, straightened her head, and asked her to trot straight, and she was lame. So there's very subtle little things, changes that we need to do better. That was a good way. It was an example for me to learn a little way just to do better. Just by asking that horse to trot straight, she then had to show where it hurt in her body. If she trotted crooked, she could hide the pain in her body. And again, what are we looking at? Nutrition, health, behavior, environment, and putting that together in the mental health, positive or negative. Environment, you click again. So when we put a horse in a stall, stalls can look beautiful, a deep bed, they have hay and water, but it's physically, the human feels it's safe, and they may want the horse nearby for a reason, but to the horse, it can look like a jail cell. But sometimes jail cells can feel safe because, do the bars keep you in, or do they keep something else out? And again, so we build barns with lots of stalls, and we provide little turnout. So we say there's turnout. It may only be 15 feet, but it is a turnout. And I've never worked in an office building. Like I said, I've always been with the horses. So I don't know what it feels like to be in a little cubicle like that, but I don't think I would last long. So, and I used to think if we could tolerate it, that it was okay. But as I've gotten older, that's not a word that's okay with me, right? So I hope no one here works in a little cubicle, but
And if you do, change it quickly.
yeah, yes. And find people, again, The two things I've done most successfully in my life is find like-minded people uh, and follow my heart. So, and again, yeah. So horses always show us where they feel comfortable, and it's wonderful. You don't have to just look here. Okay, so this is why I'm here. The comfort is right there. It's, you know, there's a string between us and the horses. Yesterday we were with the horses. Where do you feel comfortable with you can choose your friends, you can sit on the ground. So in the park with people, uh, in a big field with the horses, understanding, finding the environment that creates comfort, both the physical and the mental, emotional. And again, and there's a few more, yeah. Um, Unrestricted movement, what does that look like? So when you go home and you look at your horses, where is their movement restricted? Where is it unrestricted? Can they choose shelter? Can they choose shade? Can they choose when and where to eat? Can they choose where to sleep? I think there's one more. Yeah. Can they choose where to roll? One of the things my friend Arnau, who brought me here, Arnau Goma, brought me here, and he's been my Spanish connection. Um, he's been working with someone who organizes big horse shows to create areas at the horse show for rolling, right? It's a simple way that we could make that horse's life better, right? And even talking to the show people about whether they make 10-foot stall panels or 12-foot stall panels. If you have a 17 two-hand horse, you cannot really expect him to rest comfortably in a 10 by 10 stall. So notice, you know, don't just rent a stall at a show. Notice what the environment is, or insist on, you know, my horse is big. I need bigger than 10 by 10. They could put panels together and do 20 by 10. You know, I don't know what the options are, but unless we say, and we are the advocates for the horse, we have to speak up and say. Play and enrichment. And again, in the US, there aren't a lot of places where horses roam free in mountains, or even in backyards or in big fields. Um, so we bring play and enrichment into the areas where they live. So they horses make sense of their environment through curiosity, or what's new, what's the novelty, and seeking behavior. So when they're curious and they go smell something, that's seeking behavior. And noticing how they use their vision, their hearing, their smell, their taste, and their touch. And if they just have a dirt paddock by themselves with nothing in it, that horse is going to become shut down and depressed. There's really, I think horses are good at waiting for us to figure some things out, but there's always the balance, and we're looking to create a positive. Lots of, you can try a hay ball. So if you do have a horse in a smaller area, there's no right or wrong answers. There's only, how can I do better? You can get a hay ball, you can get a natural salt lick. In the summer, you can give them some frozen treats, even playing with, finding toys. My big chestnut horse that I play with, he loves really cheap umbrellas. I don't know why he likes umbrellas. He squishes them and wrecks them, but if I put an umbrella out, he'll go play with it no matter what. So, you know, who knows? Somebody bought a bunch of umbrellas and I put him out there, and he just started playing with them. So I just by accident, right? Somebody bought some umbrellas and said, "Here's a toy. Go, see if he likes it." And after he wrecked 3 of them, I got some more, and he likes them. And when we say turnout, and again here, their environment is very natural. not everywhere is environment so natural. So we're looking at the weather conditions, the footing, whether it's a dark building or has daylight, how much noise is there, who are the neighbors. And it all is very, very important. Sleep. Who here has ever had a horse that won't lie down, right? Understanding that horses only get REM sleep, and again, you need to know what REM sleep is. They can only, physically, they're only able to have REM sleep lying down. So if you have a horse that's physically unable to lie down, he's not getting his REM sleep and he will become sleep deprived. Next. If you have a horse that is fearful of his environment and not lying down, or uncomfortable, like it's too small, or there's too many horses in it, or there's no horses in it. Consequences: sleep deprivation, behavioral and performance cognitive issues, mood impacts, reduced concentration, suboptimal performance, compromised health. It lowers the immune system, metabolic disorders, motor skills, and stress. So at one of the rescues I helped, I went through and I would ask the caregivers, is this horse laying down at night? And nobody seemed to really care or notice whether they were or wouldn't. And that was one of the things I changed. You need to know every horse, are they lying down? It's a very simple thing. And horses need about 30 minutes of REM sleep every day in order to physically, mentally, emotionally be well. And again, I just want to keep reminding you of the 5 domains of animal welfare or equine welfare. They both apply. So we get to behavioral interactions, which is, it's like the meat and potatoes. Traits of survival: always be on the alert, find safety in numbers, develop a hierarchy. And that one I'm in the process of changing because I don't really like it. But in our herds, whether it's human or animal, human or equine, we have wisdom keepers, right? So that's my 50 years of experience is my wisdom. When you have a herd of horses, that 25-year-old horse that has seen everything, they have wisdom. So that development of who's keeping the wisdom for you. Horses are stoic. They're going to hide their vulnerabilities and keeping their feet free of being trapped of an encumbrance and never allowing a predator to be on top. So this is who they are in their bodies. Next. So does your horse feel safe? If a plastic bag blew at him, would he feel safe? No, they'll react in order to protect themselves. Unless they trust you. And I had this happen to a horse that a plastic bag blew on his legs while I was riding. And I communicate through my body and through my mind. He noticed the bag, I noticed the bag, and he's like, the bag's gonna get me. I was like, no, the bag's gonna miss us. Okay, keeps going. Bag's gonna get me. Yep, bag's gonna get us. Gonna touch you and keep going. Okay, bag touched us, he kind of, and then kept going, but that's because he trusts me. Every behavior has an underlying need. When you meet that need, instead of correcting the behavior usually goes away. So the best way to care for our horses and be with our horses is to meet. He doesn't know how to be in the herd. He cantered in with his head up, and the horse sent him away. Right? He did this for about half an hour. And he didn't know how to communicate with the herd. The herd is, again, 40 horses on about 60 acres. and they just stood around. Their heads were down, their tails were down. They were completely calm. And it's about meeting the unmet needs. And it was finally, after about a half an hour, he was a bit frustrated. He went and stood by himself, and he put his head down, and he thought about it. And as soon as he put his head down, 2 horses approached him and said, "You got it." And then he came over to them, and he put his head up as he was like, "Oh, you're touching me." And the leader of the wisdom keeper in the herd came over and said, "You're out. Head is up. You're out." And then a light bulb went off in Jerry's head, and he came back, and he put his head down, and they came right over, and he did that over and over, but he started removing himself, and he discovered language. It took about an hour. Stereotype and vices. Is it the horse or is it the management? It's usually both. Next. Yeah, yeah. The mental state is a combination of all, and how do we tell the negative and the positive? How do we make a negative mental state a positive one? Next. Choices, socialization, horses being social. That's the most important thing. Next. They're sentient beings, sensitive to and affected by their environment, including physical and emotional. Thanks. Dr. Rachel Draisma does work with teaching horses to follow a scent. They're as good as dogs. It's fascinating work, and I love what she's doing. And it makes you look outside the box. Oh, thank you. Next. And she writes down all of the calming signals, and a horse just blinking his eye is a calming signal. A horse lowering his eye halfway is a calming signal. But if the other horses don't respond to that, it's going to escalate one step more into they might sniff and stir up the ground. So she's really spent a lot of time noticing step by step the increments that build up to a spook, a buck, a kick. Dr. Sue Dyson is a veterinarian. She developed, it's 24 behaviors of the ridden horse in pain. And again, it's a resource for assessing horses. That's why I would love it if people can go away with more tools to assess horses. Next. I don't know if you can see the picture clearly enough, but this is a horse, a yearling in emotional distress, right? And if you look around his eye and his muzzle and his jowls, he's not in danger at that moment, but it was a Mustang foal or yearling that had just been shipped in the day before. He ended up in Connecticut. Now, how you get a Mustang in Connecticut, I don't know why they come to Connecticut. But he was rescued. He was in a safe place, but he was taken from his herd and traveled across, rounded up, removed from his herd, and traveled to Connecticut the day before this. And so he holds that mentally and emotionally in his body. And it's there. You can't ignore it. We need to address, and to create a positive life for the animals, we need to address the trauma. Next. The 5 domains help us to assess and create better health, happier horses, lower stress, beneficial sleep, less boredom, fewer stereotypes, and improved behavior when working. And I do have all the sources of where this all came, because we are a research foundation. And next. And this is one of my teachers and his friend, and they just, I bring them with me always in my heart. So I decided to put them on my presentation, so. And why I ended up with miniature creatures instead of a big horse that I always wanted, I don't know. But there they are. Everybody always asks me, do you have horses? And I'm like, yeah, but they're that big. I don't know why. Well, they teach me how to be in my heart. And she's a toughie. You can't catch her. I can't. Well, when she's supposed to be with me, she comes up to me. I do not go say, you come here now. It doesn't work. And the miniature donkey, when he wants attention, he comes, bumps the back of your knees. So, thank you so much. And I have one other toy, and this is an energy tool for grounding. And if anyone wants to hold it, I would love to share it. It doesn't look like much, but it helps you feel grounded, and so that you relax better. I keep it in my pocket. We ground water, and I'll have more science behind this soon, but it's just when my friend who makes these, he puts them in his barn, and he puts them in a mat on the floor or a dog bed, and my daughter's dog, for the first time, walked in the barn, went straight to the grounding mat and laid down flat. And it's just, well, copper is a grounding, but it's sacred geometry and copper, and I don't know the rest of the science, so. But I will find out more. But anyone who wants to hold my grounding tool and see what it feels like, this is the ancient wisdom, right?
If there's
you.
any questions, we have 1 minute.